Evening all on PlayChess and streaming to YouTube. Okay, I thought this week the Gibraltar tournament, which we looked at Nakamura last week, where Nakamura only won by half a point actually. I thought it'd be very interesting to look at British Grandmaster David Howell. He had a fantastic tournament and finished only half a point behind Nakamura, and I thought some of the games are really interesting. He's a very friendly Grandmaster. Every time, he's free for interviews. There's an interview on the kingscrusher channel, David Howell, and very friendly GM. And I thought, let's have a look at some of his games before continuing on more classic games, because it was such a fantastic tournament. I've once played in Gibraltar and I really enjoyed playing there, but I really kind of like the atmosphere there, and it produces so many fantastic games. So round one, David Howell was playing, it seems to be a four-barreled name, Menna, Barreto, Felipe, Kubiaki. Okay, he kicked off with c4, the English opening. Okay, so c4. I hope the board is okay, by the way. I checked the preview. It seems okay, the board's okay, yeah? g6, and we go into a king's engine defense. So d4, bishop g7. Now this move order where black hasn't committed the knight is kind of ignored by white. White just plays e4, d6, knight c3, nothing too special against this delayed knight movement. Knight c6, and we see this pressure on d4 immediately now. So that's protected. Knight f6, and actually we're going into a Simish king's engine. This construction here discourages knight g4 as it facilitates something like this, usually this exchange of the fianchetto. And often when you exchange off the fianchetto, you leave behind these weaknesses on the dark squares, but things are more complex than that. After castles knight ge2, black, after knight ge2, can try and start queenside counterplay, and this is all fairly standard, that black's plans have been really worked out. So a6, queen d2, and black not yet committing to e5 here, but first plays rook b8. There's a sensitive spot at the moment in white's position, c4, because the bishop's kind of blocked in. So black playing for b5 is very interesting, or threatening b5. And it's kind of stopped here with knight c1. If white routinely castled, you'd think b5 is actually quite dangerous on the surface, with white king over here. So white actually takes time out to stop b5, knight c1, e5, and we have the closing of the centre, d5. Knight d4 though is facilitated here, knight b3. This is all pretty theoretical. Knight takes, a takes. So white has the double pawns. Knight h5. Black now goes for f5, f4. Actually, we'll put on the bits just in case there's some interesting analysis as well. Stockfish. Okay. Our castle queenside. White castle's queenside. Doesn't matter about the double pawns. Black hasn't got great attacking potential. The bishop's like closed in at the moment with its own pawn. Black plays f5, king b1. So here now we see knight f6, and white just calmly plays bishop d3. It's fairly solid for white. Queen e7. The interesting thing here, maybe you consider on what I previously said, a stereotypical idea to take out the bishop, but I'm not sure it actually helps white to do this here. Because that bishop is already, it's like hemmed in anyway, so it's like getting rid of a kind of potentially bad piece to play bishop h6 in this particular position. White instead can look forward to maybe a c5 break or play on the queen side. We see rook he1, and now black actually plays f takes e4, which releases that central tension. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, and black's trying to challenge the centre with bishop f5. So white wants to keep a blockade on the e4 square because he wants to keep this bishop hemmed in behind its own pawn. in principle. So he's just playing positionally. Forget about trying to go for a kingside attack, or even attack on the queen side at the moment. Just bishop f2. And now we see black might be concerned pretty soon. If white played, for example, rook c1, then there might be c5 later. Black plays b6, locking down in advance any c5 break. But these double pawns can be used now. The heads of the double pawns, b4 as though c5 now again. And it doesn't really matter that the rook's on the king. You might find this strange, but structurally white has the space advantage on the queen side. So playing for c5, as long as white's not going to get mated, is the structural thing to do. And it would help dissolve the double pawns in any case to play for c5. Slight weakness picked up on with this move, the a4 square. Black plays queen d7 here, looking to come into that a4 square. We have rook e2 now, inviting the queen in. And a bit of a sneaky move actually is played now, queen c2. It's tactically justified. This pawn cannot be taken. If the pawn is taken, I think the queen is trapped. Bishop e1 here, and then b4. This is very awkward. In fact, okay, there's one legal square, but bishop g3, and then black is having the queen trapped. So queen c2 is tactically justified. It evicts the queen. Black doesn't want to exchange off queens here. It's going to be helping white, because then we'll still have the c5 break, and this bishop will still be locked in on queen takes, rook takes. You can imagine this is a nice position for c5 coming up. So the black queen goes to d7, and now we have rook d3. A nice kind of swinging operation might be possible with rook a3 as a potential supported threat of rook d3. Bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, keeping a firm blockade. Rook f4. Now rook a3, so attacking and defending this rook. Black plays now. Black is in a difficult position here. Actually, the queenside pressure is evident. How does black actually defend this? The most obvious choice wasn't played, to play rook a8. But I think white is a little bit better now with c5. In any case, if this had been played, white's looking good. Black actually played the more adventurous b5, just offering the a6 pawn. So is he up to something very naughty? Rook takes, rook takes. Queen takes is interesting, perhaps, but actually f takes e4 was played. B takes c4, queen takes c4. So yes, it's double pawns though, and it looks as though if black has a grip on b5, should these double pawns be that significant? And in fact, black seems to have an aggressive queen move here, queen g4. So looking at g2, white ignores that though. Here, I think it's too dangerous to take on c7. There's all sorts of things. If we take on c7, well, actually e4 drops. Forget anything clever, just e4 drops. So, okay, rook a7 is played. Now, is there time for black to take on g2 here? Black actually played rook c8, defending c7. If black takes on g2, let's have a quick look at that. Queen takes c7, and we've got kind of mating threats. Yeah, that's a false mate for black, so can't take that pawn. So defended the c7 pawn, and now we have a very interesting move, just tucking the king away with king a2, a pawn sacrifice of g2 and potentially h2. Queen takes g2, and the point is revealed here. This pawn, I mean, these two pawns are a long way from being dangerous pass pawns. If this pawn was knocked out, this would be a potentially dangerous pass pawn. So if you have that strategic intent to make the most out of your b pawn, there's a tactic which supports strategic intent here, what would you play in this position if I give you 20 seconds on stream? There's an interesting move. You want to try and make use of your B pawn, but there's a tactical move to support the strategy. So what would you consider in this position a good move for white? If I give you 20 seconds. So white's play, and it is a very, very good position for white here. And it might look a little bit strange actually, white's play. I mean, he won that pawn and he gave up g2, but you'd think the double pawns, they have use, because this b pawn is actually defending the king laterally, and it's this one which can be the passed pawn. Okay, the move here is bishop b6. Okay, so we see this pawn being sacrificed as well. So if only these pawns were super quick, they'd come down super quickly, but they can't. No, bishop takes, sorry, here, bishop takes c7 looks good, as well as what was played. Rook takes c7. Black now played rook takes c7. He is actually worse here. Bishop takes c7, and look how many squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're queening with check. And if we're queening with check, it's like one square less. If this pawn came down, it's not even check. So it's like 3 pawns and then a bonus with check. So white looks to be a very promising situation for the b pawn, and the queen's over here. There's nowhere to be helping, and this bishop has never been a help throughout this entire game. It's been kind of blocked. It would take several moves to have some influence in the game, and also d6 is going to be dropping. So we see queen f2 here, looking for this check, for example. b5 is played anyway. Check, king b3, and it's going to be with tempo now. b6, h5, b6, only 2 squares away from queening. Queen b7. Get rid of the blockader. That's the fun when there's a blockade. Queen c6. And here, actually, black resigned. It's completely lost position because of this b pawn. What does black do? If queen a6, then we just play b7. And the checks are just going to run out quickly. Check. We just tuck the king here, and then there's no checks. Absolutely winning b pawn. So what do we get from this game? The stereotypical idea of the Simish is to exchange off the bishops, but it didn't need to be in the circumstances we had. It seems as though we're happy that the bishop's blocked in. White just maintained a strong blockade on e4. And in fact, a queenside advantage was naturally occurring here. There's some nice nifty rook move to win the a6 pawn later, and it was at this point, you know, that we start to see the b pawn only interrupted by the c pawn. So this double pawn sack is a little bit spectacular in a way, to gain a lot of time for this guy. The double pawn sack, which we saw, getting that pawn anyway. The b pawn's just so quick here, just so quick in this structure. So I don't know if that's a pattern we can use in our own games. I mean, maybe it could be useful to think about when you're playing against the king's engine. The queen side can often be decisive. You don't have to play on the king side even. Just keep this bishop hand in. It didn't seem to be a terrifying game for white to play. The counterplay was quite minimal for black. So I thought that was a great game. Let's have a look at another. Now, David Howell in round 4 was black against Mikhalevski, Victor Mikhalevski. So we're going to flip the board, and we see knight f3, a non-committal move. And actually, in my club game last night, I had knight f3. I was playing against Simon Rowe actually, and I didn't play a particularly good system, and I was lucky to get a draw. But what I noticed from that game last night is the c8 bishop can often be a problem if you play it wrong. But something remarkable when I played this game and I looked at the c8 bishop treatment, it's fantastic. Black really makes use of the c8 bishop to actually weaken white on the king side, so we're going to watch out for that. e6, c4, classical d5. So we've got pawns on light squares, the bishop's blocked in at the moment. g3, and it looks like a kind of greedy move to play. D takes, but it's causing the white queen to come out, which can be a good tempo gainer in regaining that pawn. Bishop g2, a6, immediately threatening to protect the pawn, so the queen goes here. Now we gain a tempo, which is important for solving the queenside bishop problem. We can put the bishop on this diagonal and challenge this guy. If we take out this guy, we've got weakened squares. b5. The queen tries to interrupt black's plan. It looks a bit strange, this next move. Actually, checking live book, I think more usual is queen c2 here in live book. There's a lot of games with this, but white played the more adventurous queen c6, rook b8, and then goes back, and we have bishop b7. So the black pieces seem fine here. It seems as though black has equalized, in fact, without any particularly bad piece. I think black looks fine here. d3, knight f6, castles, bishop e7. White willingly gives up his light square bishop with knight d4, because it looks as though, maybe from white's point of view, black's light squares are also weakened with this exchange. In particular, c6 looks vulnerable. So how do we address the c6 issue? Does black want to routinely castle? No, knight c6. If we routinely castle, knight c6. Ouch. Black takes time, of course, to address this. Plays rook b6. And this is quite nifty, actually. If knight c6, then we use the pin. We've got queen a8. So with that problem addressed, it seems as though black hasn't got a problem piece and is ready, maybe even for c5 later. Now white tries to question this structure. Is it a bit fragile? Is the rook slightly awkward there? Well, white plays here a4, putting pressure on black's queen side. And we see this knight kicked with c5. The knight goes back. Black castles. Bishop d2. And that carries a threat with it, bishop a5, which needs to be addressed. We see queen b8. Yeah, it looks as though black has had a great opening here. And the sting from white's position, the Fianchetto bishop has been taken out. So black's more than equal, it seems. Is white going to do something devastating with this a file or something? He plays a takes. After a takes, knight c3. Doesn't seem particularly threatening. The only slightly weak pawn, maybe this is of some concern. Rook c8. And actually c4 looks good, potentially. The rooks look well prepared behind the pawns. b3. Now queen b7, pinning this guy. Rook a5, so b5 been looked at a bit. But, so white's plan also try and double rooks maybe. Knight e5, though, is a very powerful move. And it seems white goes particularly wrong here. White has to play very, very carefully. And he didn't. He actually routinely, maybe expecting black to double the pawns here or something, played rook fa1. And can you see what black does here, which kind of wins material? So black to play here, what would you play in this position? If I give you 20 seconds. So there's a very strong move, just winning material actually. So from an opening which black really equalised very comfortably, he's now winning material by force in this position. Can you see how? I'll just pour a Coke. Or Pepsi rather. Okay. So black to play. What would you play? Any ideas? So do we want to double the pawns, or is there something better? Okay, I'm about to show you. Okay, hold on. Antonio Nunes Barilla. Yeah, actually, we can protect the A7 square here and win material at the same time. Instead of knight takes F3, which doesn't, I don't think it really does anything here. It's the damage isn't that hard, bad. Instead, we can actually play knight C6. We're not just protecting A7. We're hitting the rook. And where does the rook go here? The rook has been stopped from going back to A1. If it goes to A2, then knight B4. Ouch. If it goes to A3, then we've got B4. Ouch. Yes, chess is a very concrete game. The idea that you can just double rooks and convince yourself, oh, just double rooks here because A7 looks tempting, is nonsense. Chess is really brutal. It's a brutal game. It's not noughts and crosses. You can't just say, I'm going to double rooks. You can maybe in blitz chess, because there's no time for the opponent usually to punish you. But here, yeah, it's just losers on the spot, doubling rooks to knight C6. Black is significantly material up here. This knight can't move either, because there'll be a nasty check, discover check on the king. Oh, sorry, just as an example, that we can even win the queen with discover check if that knight moves. But yeah, the rook's lost here. B5 is protected. Ouch. Queen A2. White plays on, but move 21. He's busted, theoretically. White losing the exchange. Knight D5. So now actually there's a nasty idea of bishop F6. Poor A1 is being targeted again. That poor rook on A1 has caused a lot of problems for white. Knight takes D5. E takes. And with this, black is in a position now to clamp down on E2. If he plays D4, he'll be restraining E2. And if he gets his rooks to E2, wouldn't that be lovely? That's the next kind of strategic plan to celebrate the exchange up. Bishop E3, D4, bishop goes back, and we see pressure on E2 immediately. Rook A2, rook E8. The rooks are doubling on E2. King F1, H6. Holding the back row for a moment. Knight G1. And now the queen might be useful coming back. That's stopped. B4. F3. White's trying to play some sort of defense to hold out here. Bishop F8. King F2. Queen D5. The queen is going to come across maybe and start attacking things. Queen A4. Okay, tying down this rook to protect this guy. But it looks as though white is just fishing for something. Actually, H5 now, trying to weaken black's king safety. If we can peel open this line, then we can play Queen H5 with greater effect for Queen H2. Knight H3. Yes, that looks dangerous. Knight F4. We see Bishop D6 to stop that. Knight G5. The rook's got to keep protecting this one. Goes to E7 for a moment. And the knight gets a nice square for a moment, it seems. But H4 is played. Bishop G5. H takes, H takes. So black's opened up this line for the queen one day. Rook E6. G4. So has white kind of crawled out a bit. He's established what seems to be a promising knight on e4. I know he's the exchange down, but he's got a solid grip on the a file, right? How can white be broken down here? Well, first of all, the tactical liability is reduced. Rook f8. And also f5 now to try and peel open the king is introduced. Bishop d2, f5. G takes, queen takes. And the queen's got h3 to come to here. Rook a1, queen h3. It's getting a bit dangerous. In fact, yeah, it's pretty bad. Rook g1, and here is white is crumbling now under the pressure with black's next move here. So although white seems to have clawed back a bit with a strong knight on e4, queen ready to come in, and you know, it looks potentially dangerous. But black to play in this position really plays a fantastic move. Crushing move. What would you play here if you were black? If I give you 20 seconds, black to play. 20 seconds from here, move which really cements, well, capitalizes is a good move. How can you capitalize on the advantage? You usually go for the king actually to capitalize on the advantage. So he's the exchange up, but white is threatening things. Yeah, after rook g1, white is threatening things. So what do you want to play here, which knocks out the defense of white's king? It's rook takes e4, ready to give up the exchange. Rook takes e4. It weakens white on all sorts of squares like g3. D takes. We see queen h2 check. Now here, if if rook g2, black has bishop g3 check. It'll be a mate in 4. King f1 check. Rook g1. Rook takes f3 is a forced mate. That didn't happen. We see king f1, but now there's a really crushing move even in this variation. Bone crushing move here. Can you spot it? Black to play here. It's the final move of the game. Move 43. Alright, there's been a suggestion for bishop g3. That is good actually, bishop g3. There's something even stronger than bishop g3. Bishop g3 is like approaching like +5. Takes with the exchange up, and we've got frets. But even more crushing is what was played actually, which is d3. So we're threatening immediately. You know, queen takes e2. And white resigned here. There's no real defense here to this. If rook g2, d takes, and this is horrible. Here, bishop g3, and we're going to take the rook. Yeah, there's no defense to d3 here. You might think, can white play like nuisance check? I don't think this helps. This kind of thing. Just king here. We're going to just take here. It's going to be devastation. Whatever happens, it's going to be devastation after d3. So yeah, white is just busted here. What other things to look at here? Rook here. Takes. Queen h2. This is a forced mate. Rook takes f3. Queen e2. Yeah. d3 seals the deal. d3. What a beautiful game. I think positionally, black never had any issues. This bishop was solved. This classic bishop issue was solved with d takes, actually. The queen coming here, it supports this construction. It supports bishop b7 later, as we saw. So black's positional issues were solved. Black seems to have fully equalised here in this position. Black's already fully equalised, or even slightly better. The sting has been taken out of white already. And it seems, with this pin, it looks though the obvious thing was knight here to here, but actually white's walked into the sin of routinely doubling rooks and just losing the game instantly. Really, from here, very difficult to come back from this. But the exploitation of the material advantage is nice. The rook's doubling on e2, clamping on e2, and then later, the exchange sack breaks down white's king safety just before some threats could be emerging here. Rook takes e4, liberates this pawn, check, and now that liberation is made use of. I thought it was another beautiful game. I hope you did. I hope it can improve our chess a little bit, seeing such games. Okay, so another game. Okay, this is in round 5. David Howell was playing AR Saleh Salem, and he plays e4. He's white. Let's flip the board. David Howell's white. So round 5. We have e5. Nc3 Nc6. We have the highly aggressive Schliemann defense, which is this very early f5, and it's kind of like a king's gambit in reverse. Sometimes you don't really want to. It might be tempting to take on f5, but you're giving black things like e4. This is quite interesting. And player with black, you don't want to go into their territory that much. A very simple move is played here and scores quite well, which is just to play d3. Just keep solid d3. So f takes, d takes, and white's looking forward to this diagonal already, and d5 is interesting. Knight f6, white castles. Bishop c5, and here white takes on c6, b takes, and plays knight takes e5. So black seems to be taking some risks in the opening. After castles, knight c3, d6, and things are getting really interesting and tactical here. Remember, black's got the bishop pair here, right? And he's got this f file. If we do some routine stuff, we might be smashed, because black has got some very aggressive trump cards here in this position. If we just retreat the knight, as an example, black actually might even be better with bishop a6. Ouch. Knight g4. Oh dear. This is starting to look horrible. This kind of forcing sequence shows great pressure is on white. Down the f file. No, a routine move might not work out that well. You might think knight takes c6. That also, okay, that looks, you need to back this up with b4 here. And yeah, it's a bit murky. And again, bishop a6 is useful to black. This f file pressure. No, something much stronger was played actually. Knight a4. It's surprising, yeah. So ignoring this, just to put pressure on c5. If this bishop can be taken out, then there's less pressure on f2, and that f file is less relevant. We don't have to be so worried about it. So queen e8, knight d3, bishop goes to d4 here, c3, and we're going to win this bishop. We're going to take it out. Knight takes, 8 takes, and now white, yeah, he's a pawn up, f3, just protecting e4 like that. It's a fantastic outcome from the opening, because the two bishops, we've got rid of black's two bishops. We've got rid of the dangerous dark square bishop. And we can even play moves like this in the absence of the dark square bishop, weakening our dark squares and solidifying our centre. So that's a great opening position to start from. Bishop e6. And here, is black threatening a2? Not really. Just bishop g5 is played here. Let's have a quick look. If bishop takes, it's easy to refute. I think just rook takes a2. No. no, it's not easy to refute. Pardon me, because there's queen f7. Nope. But there is a refutation of this. It's a bit more subtle. Bishop takes f6. G takes. And just b3, actually trapping that bishop. That will do. If queen f7 here, I think knight c1, and we protect here, and we trap the bishop. Rook takes a2, the same thing. We're going to just trap the bishop, so I'm pretty sure this pawn can't be taken. We're just going to play taking first. I think b3 is okay, but taking first here, and then b3. We're just going to trap the bishop, so yeah. Alright, just let's get that over with. a2 is not hanging, so knight d7, queen c2, b5, so we're still happily a pawn up, a4, queen b8, bishop e3, bishop goes back to e3, b takes a4, rook takes a4. Not fearing bishop b3, we've got rook takes a8 in this position. Here takes. It's all going to be favouring white. This will just be favouring white. So rook takes a4, queen b5. It looks as though black's got some activity on the queen side. We have rook b4, queen a6. And now the move b3, because this rook actually is awkwardly placed. Black looks to be threatening c5 here and embarrassing the rook. Now this little move b3 is very good. It gives the rook a4. If c5 now, we've got a4. Otherwise we're in trouble with our rook. Queen a3. Rook b1, taking care of things. c5. Is it a problem here? Now it gets immensely tactical sequence from this position. The most obvious thing to do would be rook b7, but we have a very interesting tactical sequence, clinical sequence. Bishop c1, queen a2. The queen's come off, and only now the rook to b7. But black indulges tactically here with the move c4, and okay, what is going on here? White can actually just take this. This isn't a big deal to take this. This will still be better for white. Knight before hitting the rook. Actually, white played knight f4 here. And if the bishop now moves, then I think we can just take on c7, hitting knight. It's all falling apart for black. So black tries to make use of what looks to be initially a very dangerous passed pawn with an exchange sacrifice here. Rook takes f4, trying to accelerate the use of this pawn. So bishop takes f4, c takes b3. So the exchange sacrifice, yielding this pawn. I guess if white wanted to, white could give back the exchange. No, he plays rook takes c7. So d6 is now much weaker as well. knight c5, and he takes on d6, and the pawn looks to be getting exceptionally dangerous. b2 now, as though rook a1. It's all under control. It's all part of simplification here. Bishop takes c5, rook a1, and white just gives back a whole rook with king f2. He's 2 pawns up in this opposite colour bishop ending. Rook takes b1, and the rook is not going anywhere here useful. It's tied down to b2. Nothing black can do, is there? You'd think? I wouldn't have thought there's anything black can do here for his passed pawn. So we see the move bishop c8, rook b8, and here rook c1. So that pawn is taken in exchange for c3. We're still 2 pawns up after all this. Bishop d4, looking at g7, g4, h4. And here actually black had enough of the game after rook a2. White is threatening rook a7 check, and it's going to coordinate on g7. So it's pretty dire, the position. He resigned here. If rook c7, I mean 2 pawns down, white's going to just torture black as long as it takes, I think, in this position. There's not too many prospects. It's a technique win. Black just resigned here after rook a2. Yeah, that was like more complicated tactically. Black created some complications there, but they were managed well. We have a quick review. It's a bit of a wild game. The Schliemann, you know, the personality type of the Schliemann player, very aggressive, tactical, I expect. Very aggressive, tactical monsters that play the Schliemann. But, you know, if you don't play these meek sheep moves and you actually look for something different, take out the bishop pair, top priority, knight a4. Get rid of all the dynamic play as far as possible. So the bishop's taken out. And then there's play on the queen's side that needs to be managed. And it was. It seems some clinical precision here not to have the rook trapped. Just this little move b3, important for rook a4. And we have now this like exchange sacrifice which is uncovered, because actually the rook is actually going to munch loads of material. So this exchange sack, but white is prepared just to go into an endgame, 2 pawns up. That will do. 2 pawns up. Okay. I thought that's interesting, that game. Now this game was a grind. Oh, blimey. The young Chinese super talent Yi Wei, I think he's very, very young super talent, playing with the white pieces. So I think the first 15-year-old to pass the 2700 mark, I mean the youngest player to pass the 2700 mark on the live rating list, Yi Wei, was playing white against David Howell. Okay, so we see e4, and David Howell, he adopts solid e5, knight c6, and we have Gyokyo piano, bishop c5. It's when black plays bishop c5, by the way, that's Gyokyo piano. It's not on bishop c4. It's bishop c5, and this is now Gyokyo piano. Gyokyo pianissimo, even quieter. d3 with d3. So knight f6, knight bd2, both sides castle. So it looks like a primary school game, because it's an opening popular in primary school. When you have your bishops like this, they're sort of central control, and they're looking at the soft spots. That's why they're kind of, it's like an instructive opening, the Gyokyo piano. it's got these basic principles that you're hitting soft spots, you're controlling the central squares, you've got your pawn in the center as well, controlling squares. But these players are super grandmasters playing Go-Go piano. So how does one side get an advantage here? Slight differences in configuration, otherwise it's totally symmetrical. The knight's here, this knight's arguably a bit more aggressive than this one. It's a tiny little detail in the position makes a huge difference, because now white has got this plan of maybe c3 and d4 later. So he plays c3, bishop b6, bishop b3, knight e7. This looks like an interesting maneuver to get the knight here. Rook e1, knight g6. I would say black looks pretty comfortable here. The knights, when they're like this, you know, it's like aggressive with this nice bishop here. A move for white, which might be interesting, is knight c4 to try and get rid of the dark square bishop. Actually, white plays knight f1, and the bishop's allowed to survive. So c6, knight g3, rook e8, h3, bishop e6, challenging that bishop. And white plays now c4, which looks a little bit strange, blocking the bishop, just superficially. Bishop c5. With this move, it looks as though you know, maybe the queen's going to join a battery here on f2 or something. So we see bishop e3 challenging this bishop, and black takes on e3. And okay, here there's a structural concession made here. This is a critical moment at move 15. A structural concession is made with f takes e3, but sometimes the double pawns in the center, they control key squares, the double pawns. Sometimes there's a big upside to them, and also of course the f file sometimes is useful for white. But if we examine just for a moment, rook takes e3, I think knight f4, and then actually this is quite dangerous. We've got things like this on the cards. As an example, let's just have an example. Takes. It starts to look quite dangerous. This is engine view of the position. Yeah, I mean, there's some dangers with sacrifices like that in principle, and actually in this position with bishop takes h3. Yeah, it looks to be sound. Bishop takes h3. You know, here knight g4 again. You know, we're coordinating here. Queen f6. Yeah, white doesn't want to be subjected to some sort of attack like this. So there's an idea behind f takes e3 that white can use the f file. He's controlling some squares. He's avoiding any king safety issues like that. But this is a long-term problem now, these double pawns. In the endgame, it might be a problem. We see h6, d4, a5, rook c1, queen b6, as though a4 now for taking on b2 might be an issue. King h2. This wasn't played for some reason. Maybe it's too tactically complex, or it might backfire to something. But a4, the resistance, I mean the temptation to play that, it wasn't played. Rook a d8, queen c2, queen a6, rook e d1, rook a8 here threatens a4 to win the bishop. c5, black takes on b3, queen takes, a4 now, e takes, and yeah, e4 needs to be protected, queen takes d4, so we're left with these horrendous looking double pawns here. D takes, rook takes, queen b6, which actually now threatens rook ad8. It's winning material. There's a big threat there of rook ad8. Rook c4. Looking at the queen. Queen a5. Also protecting a4. Queen d2. Queen's come off. Knight e5. Rook c5. Knight fd7. The rook goes back. g6. And we've got a situation emerging now where we've got a beautiful blockade on e5. And if you know, there's a couple of, well, the classic work about blockade is by Nmzovich. It is a classic work, even if it sounds strange, some of the stuff in Nmzovich My System, but his favourite blockading piece is the knight. And here it's his favourite blockading piece is knight, and also on top of that, his favourite thing to blockade is doubled pawns. And on top of that here, these double pawns are isolated. This is, you know, a blockade dream position, this e5 blockade. So, okay. Knight takes e5, knight takes. And we still have this beautiful blockade. But is this enough to win the game? Yeah, it seems structurally painful for white. And the knight seems superior to this one. This one hasn't got that many prospects, or has it? Tries to reroute. So we see some manoeuvring now. And this is a long game. So let's just see how the manoeuvring goes. Otherwise we'll be here all night just with this game. The pawns are protecting now each other. There's a 3-2 on the queen side. It's like e4 is tortured a bit. Pin. So black's slightly better here. Check. Rook e6. Protecting e4 again. Check. Not minding the exchange of knights. Going into this rook and pawn ending. And you might think, should white be able to draw this rook and pawn ending? Okay, this is an increment time control, by the way, of course. So black can take as long as he wants to win this game if he's got an advantage. Pawns are getting dissolved here. King c5. This is, I think, stronger than b takes. King c5. Check. Pawn moves. Check. e6. Trying to dissolve some pawns. But we've got a running pawn here, more maybe than this in some way. It's moved. And black, with this movement, threatens now king moving rook b6. This is potentially dangerous. e4, king c5. So it looks as though b3 is dangerous in conjunction with rook b6. Rook b6. b3. Dangerous pawn here. Check. And yeah, the king looks to be more active than this one. And here, yeah, rook b3. This is really, it's going to try and win these two pawns. And yeah, white's getting ground down. This is the term I like sometimes to use, is just ground down. White is getting ground down here. And resigns here and move 87. Now, when I was looking at the a few days back when Gibraltar was on, I was looking at this game live. There was an opportunity. The engines pick up an opportunity around about. There's an opportunity in this game. It seemed a technical opportunity somewhere to kind of try and keep things equal. Except I'm not sure if I can find it. It's somewhere in this rook and pawn ending. I think there might be some opportunities for white to sort of put up a resistance. but I can't find it. I'm not going to find it unless one of you has already seen the game and seen the analysis for it. I'm not going to be able to find it, I don't think. Oh, here there's an interesting thing with rook a8. It's not enough, I think, to hold. Here, it's just more stubborn resistance to try and to have stopped the king from getting over there. But yeah, black's better here. I'm not entirely sure about this. Is white enough for is white good enough for a fortress? If we go for this g4, I don't know about that. But anyway, it was a bit of a grind. What can we say about this game? It's very difficult to say anything about this game. This looks like a controversial decision, f takes. We end up later with a nice blockade on e5. And yeah, black's endgame technique was tested. He just ground his opponent down. Okay, let's go on to another game. that guy might be a future world champion, Yi Wei. So it's good David Howell managed to beat him. He might never get a chance again if the guy keeps going up in rating. The youngest 2700 the world has ever seen. So anyway, yeah, Itchy, in round 3, David Howell was playing against Leila Giavakishvili, 2486. So let's have a look at that game. c4, the English opening. Knight f6, g3, e5, bishop g2, c6. Now knight f3, e4. The knight goes to d4, d5. I've actually played this position as white in a tournament once. It was unfortunate. I had a really good position, and actually it was at the Barnet Congress a few years back. And as I was winning, my mobile phone went off. Yeah, and that was when I never took a mobile phone again with me to any tournament. Well, no, I made sure it was turned off. But yeah, I had a bad experience. I was winning, and then I lost on a phone forfeit once. Thought I'd mention it in passing. It was this opening. Yes, I was white. C takes, d3, bishop c5, knight b3 against Paul Kemp, I think. Knight c3, bishop f5, bishop g5. So white here has a pleasant looking position and is threatening, yeah, bishop takes and knight takes d5. We see rook e8. Now here it's not a problem actually, not such a problem as you'd think. Bishop takes, because there's always the b2 pawn. If we take here, queen takes b2, still looks interesting for white. But actually d takes e4 was played. D takes e4. And white actually gets a clear advantage here anyway. It seems as though white's hyper-modern strategy to get black to occupy the centre has really paid off here. It looks as though this is really bad for black. Queen takes d8, bishop takes d8, and no, black's a 2500-ish player, nearly 2500. He just seems to be in a worse position here. e4 is very vulnerable here. We see knight c5, threatening knight takes, b7, and other stuff, which is horrible. e4 looks extremely vulnerable. Let's have a quick look here. If black played this, if he plays this, then actually there's this is nice. We could just simply take here, maybe, and then just take on e4. This would be better for white. If takes here, takes. Let's have a look at this position. Knight d6. Actually, we can just win the exchange, win the rook. So already, yeah, it's gone wrong for black here. This position at move 14 is quite a significant advantage already. I can't get this actually. This is like very theoretical. Let's just see where black went wrong theoretically before carrying on here. Just for my own interest. Sorry, I'm just looking at live book. E4. Yeah, this is all the trodden path. C takes. Now usually here queen takes D5 is played. There's 118 games with queen takes, so this is a bit rare to play C takes. We seem to have a reverse Alekhine defense where E4 is exceptionally weak, and yeah, it's just we've gone off track. We've gone off track here. There's only 8 games with bishop C5. Yeah, I think the move queen takes D5. This has been seen before and is meant to be okay for black, but with this, yeah, it seems as though something's wrong here. Yeah, with bishop G5, this pinned, this is here. E4 looks weaker than usual. Anyway, so back to the game. So we have this position where white seems to be significantly better. Knight takes B7, now winning a pawn, threatening knight D6. I mean, it already looks pretty dire. Bishop E7, bishop F4. So white now, with bishop F4, is controlling B8, and also knight B5 to C7 looks good. Knight B6, knight B5. Yeah, just go and fork the rooks. Why not? Black parries that with knight BD5. Knight D6. Knight takes F5. Knight takes E7. B3, yeah, looks as though white's achieved a clear advantage here with the 2 bishops. And yeah, I don't know where black's counterplay can happen here. So let's see, knight ED5, bishop E5. Black plays the tactical knight E3 now. Bishop takes F6. Knight takes. And the knight is stranded now with bishop C3. It's not coming out to D2. Rook C8, bishop goes to E1. So he's going to win this knight. 2 pieces for the rook. Knight takes H2. So big material advantage. Undermines the center, tries to undermine a bit more with G4. Okay, a pair of rooks come off. Rook C2. I think if black plays G6, I don't think it helps. We can just take here and then play bishop H3. It's not good. Yeah, this is pretty powerful stuff. Rook C2, King G3, takes A4, H5, bishop takes E4, and here this pawn, is on the same diagonal for the bishop D5. So white just plays bishop C3, and black resigned. To be honest, actually, I didn't realise about this game. I haven't actually looked at this game earlier, so sorry about that. This is a bit new to me, this game, a bit too new for my own. I've only just seen this game just now. Let's have a quick look again. So the English opening, it escaped my attention somehow. D3. It just seems this reverse Alekhine defense. I don't know if that looks disgusting as well. We just double the pawns here, and we just win E4 like that. Yeah, it just seems as though black got a lost position quite quickly. Yeah, it looks as though the best might have been bishop here. It's terrible. Bishop takes. We can just win a pawn by force. So yes. 2 bishops, and this tactic's not really working very well at all. The knight ends up trapped, so we get 2 pieces for the rook. Right, it's a nice game. It's one I should have looked at earlier. Apologies for that. Let's look at another game. It's very interesting anyway. Now this one did really capture my attention a few days back because I thought it was some trap in the English opening, which a lot of players take for granted. And apparently the trap isn't so convincing. When I saw this game, I thought, wow. So it was against one of the top US players, Daniel Nederitsky. So it was in round 9. So David Howell playing white, c4, and we have this kind of reverse Sicilian defense with an extra tempo. So g3, d5, c takes, knight takes, bishop g2, knight b6, castles, bishop e7, a3, castles, b4. And it's a really classical setup from black, with the bishops looking good here, and as though often black is aiming for things like knight d4 and using the weaknesses around here, like b3, d3, a5, b5, and here it is. You see this a5 is very provocative for this kind of trap. I considered it a trap, this idea of playing knight d4, because you allow the e pawn to go, because it's I thought it was bad because of this bishop b3, winning material for black. But this happened. Knight d4, knight takes e5 is played. Okay, so here we don't see bishop b3 in this position. Actually, queen d2, and black can't do anything that bad, it seems. We see first bishop f6, and it looks as though, yeah, white's got weaknesses around here, and it looks like an awkward move to play f4. And we have now the move knight b3, which not only hits the rook but threatens queen d4 check to pick up the knight. So this is what I mean. It looks as though, and I thought this was like some sort of common knowledge in the English opening, that this was a trap that black could kind of set. This position here, this kind of stuff, where you know black gives up e5 and gets these tactics. But this is astonishing what happens in this position. I mean, I thought it was interesting. Well, astonishing, maybe it's too strong a word. But okay, so we can rule out certain moves here. If rook b1 is played, then yes, just queen d4 check and it's over. Yeah, we just lose that material. So what does white play in this position? Why did white play this? So what does white play here? If you're white, what would you play in this position? If I give you 20 seconds, white play. I don't know if this is Fury. Maybe this is Fury, but anyway, let's have a look at it. Oh, there's actually 6 games from this position now, including this one. So white play here. Bishop b2. Apparently there's been a game with bishop b2 before. I don't know how high level it is. Bishop b2. Interesting. In fact, bishop b2 is like a high engine choice as well. There's 2 high engine choice moves. Okay, it's an exchange sack time. We haven't, because of this queen d4. We can't really do that much. Yeah. So we sacrifice the exchange. Bishop e3. Now, how sound is this? So black takes the exchange, knight takes a1, queen takes a1. Well, we've got pressure for the exchange. We've got b7 eyed. And yeah, how does black deal with that? Well, okay. I mean, black in the game played knight d5. I mean, that deals with the diagonal. If he plays rook b8, white has compensation here, maybe a4. And white seems to have some interesting compensation. Knight e4 later. And the queen seems quite interesting there. Okay, so we see knight d5. And now bishop d4. Black now gave up the dark square bishop with bishop takes e5. This might be a slight inaccuracy. Might be. If knight takes c3, queen takes, I mean, it seems white's pretty solid here. If something like this, we can play e4. And white's pretty solid. He's got some pressure down the c file. Okay, so black played this move, bishop takes e5. Bishop takes e5. And some naughty stuff is going on with g7 now, you know, with taking, and then bishop takes g7. We've got this battery on g7. So black played what seems to be a logical move against this. The other problem is if black takes here, then queen takes, we're actually double attacking g7. And also, sorry, we're also threatening bishop takes b7 as well. And if rook here, then maybe bishop takes c7. So, okay, so black played in the circumstances what seems to be a very sensible move, f6. And now white gets a little bit more material after knight takes. Here, it's really tricky. What does black do here? It seems bishop takes d5 is forced. If f takes, then just queen takes e5 looks very nice for white. This looks very nice. We can pick up another pawn. Looks exceptionally nice compensation, but in the game it's okay as well. Actually, after bishop takes d5, white has a strong move here, which seems to give a theoretical small advantage. Can you see what white plays in this position? If I give you 20 seconds, so white's play here. So 20 seconds, what would you play in this position? Oh yeah, there's a little tactic to get another pawn. So it's 2 pawns for the exchange. Bishop takes c7, lure the queen away from d5. If the queen refuses, then queen d4 is nice. So yeah, 2 pawns for the exchange. This could spell some trouble for black. So let's see what happens now. Exchange for 2 pawns. King g2. Queen a2, giving back a pawn temporarily, but the b7 pawn looks to be in trouble. In fact, white didn't immediately take on b7. Yeah, this is incredible precision. I think most players will just try and maybe take on b7 here, but it might be slightly inaccurate. It's just ever so slightly. If we take on b7 here, are we making some more work with black having that b file there? What was played in this position is actually a4, and there's this idea. Well, if here, I think we can play rook b5. Little subtlety. And actually, maybe even come over here. It's a4, so it's like an attacking move. A4, because we've got stuff like this. It's quite incredible. It's just a little finesse in the position, which you not normally think about, sort of taking on b7. But a4 might actually be the strongest move, rather than taking on b7. So anyway, rook AB8. But with this pawn on the light square, it helps the bishop maybe in some cases. Now actually, although this is very interesting, rook b5 here for this attacking idea, it wasn't played. Instead we see rook takes b7. Queen d4. We have the exchange of rooks. But now with the pawn on a4, the b5 square is interesting. Bishop c6, as though we can close the b file if we need. Queen e3. Bishop drops back. Queen d4. Queen e3. A bit of time gaining for get to the time control maybe. h4. So white's pretty solid. He's 2 pawns for the exchange. Queen b4, queen c2, queen b3. White avoids the exchange of queens. Queen c7, queen f7, and with the queen near the king, actually h5, h6 is useful because we can get to that h7 still one day with bishop e4, queen d4. h5. Now if black just routinely plays h6, I think he's weakening these light squares too much. He played actually queen d6. If he plays h6, yeah, queen g6 we've immediately got for bishop e4. So he avoids that temptation to play h6. He plays actually queen d6, allowing what seems to be a very dangerous move, h6. So we're threatening mates. And if takes, I think we just play bishop e4 here, and that's end of game. So queen f8, and the queen just drops here to a7. And guess what? Not only can we sometimes play bishop e4, but if we get this guy, then this guy is supported by the bishop. So there's some things to look forward to here. G takes is played, queen takes a5. We've got a runaway past a pawn here. Queen g7, queen f5. Okay, that has to be attended to. G4. Black is getting a little bit desperate here, but it's such a difficult position. White can get the pawn going as well as playing bishop e4 under the right circumstance. Black plays h5. I think he senses he's in big trouble. Takes a5, just a6 now. So we're combining h7 and this guy. Takes, check, and now at move 45 we see the move bishop d5 controlling g8 actually, which means queen b8's a killer threat, mate in 3, queen b8. And black's also got this pawn to deal with, and he resigned here. I don't know how does black actually defend? Black can't really defend this position. If you think black can defend it, please, I'll give you 20 seconds to look at this, but it seems as though, well, it seems pretty terminal actually. It is terminal, I think. So black resigned here. If the queen, there's nothing to suggest even. If h5, okay, check, this is devastating. We're mate in 2 here. What do we do here? This a7, and queen over there. Yeah, bishop d5 is just, black's totally overstretched. Yeah, I found that fascinating because I thought this was a sort of theoretical trap, because this line is quite popular. This line here I've seen a lot before. It's kind of a popular idea for black to sack this for stuff like, you know, bishop f6. It just didn't seem to work out very well. If white players with white often, I'm not sure they do that well when you play knight takes d4. I don't think this is any big deal for black, because black gets that pressure on e2 later. Usually he quite often enjoys that structure. So it's interesting that here knight takes e5. It's only 7 games in live book. The most popular move seems to be knight d2. Knight d2 is the most popular move, with this continuation in live book. Funny enough, bishop takes c6. Yeah, I mean, there's a few games even here. So that seems to be a more theoretical continuation. It seems as though knight takes e5 might have been some sort of prepared novelty. There's about 80 games, rook b1, bishop b2. So knight takes e5 seems to be deliberately going into black's main sort of evil intentions. But this exchange sack seems to bring the position into some sort of theoretical debate here about this exchange sack. So I found that interesting anyway. I don't know if anyone else did, but I hope you did. So that is the games I wanted to show you this week from David Howell at Gibraltar. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much, and see you next week. Good luck with your chess. Bye for now.